I'm bored. Let's read a book. Oh! This is Chapter 1 of The Magic of Recluce. Growing up, I always wondered why everything in Whatnot seemed so dull. Not that I minded the perfectly baked bread routinely produced by my father or by Aunt Elizabeth. And I certainly enjoyed the intricately carved toys and other gifts Uncle Sardet miraculously presented on my birthday or on the high holidays. Perfection, especially for a youngster learning about it from cheerfully sober adults, has a price. Mine was boredom, scarcely novel for a young man in the middle of his second decade. But boredom leads to trouble, even when things are designed to be as perfect as possible. Of course, the perfection and striving for perfection that marked this island, though some would term Recluce as a smallish continent, had a reason. A good reason, but one hardly acceptable to a restless young man. Perfection, Laris, my father repeated time after time, is the price we pay for a good life. Perfection keeps destruction away and provides a safe harbor for the good. But why and how? Those were always my questions. Finally, shortly after I finished the minimum formal schooling, in my case 15, my mother entered the discussion. Laris, there are two fundamental forces in life and in nature. Creation and destruction. Creation is order. We attempt to maintain it. You sound just like Magister Kerwin. Order is all that keeps chaos at bay, because evil and chaos are so closely linked. One should avoid all but most necessary acts of destruction. I know perfection is important. I know it. I know it and I know it. But why does it have to be so flaming boring? She shrugged. Order is not boring. You are bored with order. She looked at my father. Since you are bored with us, and since you are not quite ready for the possibility of undertaking the Danger Guild, how would you like to spend a year or so learning about woodworking from Uncle Sardet? Dinara? Asked my father, obviously questioning my mother's volunteering of his sister's husband. Sardet and I have talked it over, Gunner. He's willing to take on the challenge. Challenge? I blurted. What challenge? I can learn anything for about the first 3 weeks. It's not as though you will ever become a master woodworker, Laris, but the general skills and discipline will come in useful when you undertake your Danger Guild. Me? Why would I ever go tramping off through the wildlands? You will, most assuredly. The only thing I was assured that is I would have the chance to learn how to craft some of the screens, tables, chairs, and cabinets that Uncle Sardet produced. Every once in a while, I knew, someone traveled from Kandar or even from one of the trading cities of Austria to produce one of his screens or inlaid tables. Until I had a better idea of what I really wanted to do in life, woodworking was better than helping my father keep all the stonework spotless, or mixing clays, or tending the Keelan fire for Mother. Although the same traders who visited Sardet also visited my mother's shop, I did not have the touch for pottery. Besides, pots and vases bored me. So did the intricacies of glazes and finishes. So within days I had left the neat and rambling timbered and stone house where I had grown up, where I had looked out through the blue-tinted casement window in my bedroom, out on the herb garden for the last time. Then I had walked nearly empty-handed the half-day to my uncle's, where I was installed in the apprentices' quarters over the carpentry. Uncle Sardet's other apprentice, Koldar, had almost completed his apprentice term, and he was building his own house, with the help of an apprentice stones mason, a woman called Corso. She was bigger than either of us, but she smiled a lot, and she told Koldar they made a good pair. She was living in the unfinished house alone, but probably not for long. That meant until another apprentice came along, I had the privacy and responsibility of the shop in the evenings. Still, it had been a small shock to realize that I would not be living in the guest room at Uncle Sarditt's, but in the much smaller and sparsely furnished apprentice's space. The only furniture was a bed, an old woven rug, and a single hanging lamp. The plain oak red walls scarcely showed even a hairline cracks where the boards joined. The polished floors, also red oak, displayed the same care and crafting. That's what you're here for, Laris. When you learn how, you can make your own tables, benches, chairs. In the evenings, have to fell your own wood, make arrangements with Halprin at the sawmill for rough stock, to place what's been seasoned unless you want to try and cut rough cut logs yourself. Don't recommend that. Sarditt as a craft master was a bit different than as an uncle. I was going to learn about carpentry and tools, and how to make screens and cabinets and tables, right? Not exactly. To begin with, it was just like the pottery shop, but worse. I heard about clays and consistencies and glazes and firing temperatures for years. I hadn't realized that woodworking was similar, not until Uncle Sarditt reminded me forcefully. How are you going to use tools properly, boy, if you don't know anything about the woods you're working with? With that, he sat me down with his old apprentice notes on woods. Each day, either after work or before we opened the shop in the morning, I had to show him my own hand-copied notes on at least 2 kinds of trees, the recommended uses, curing times, and general observations on the best uses of the wood. Not only that, but each card went into a file box, the one thing he had let me make, with some advice from him, and I was expected to update the cards if I learned something of value in a day's work on the wood. What did you write down on the black oak? Here, let me see. He scratched his head. You spent all day helping me smooth that piece, and the wood told you nothing? Once in a while, I saw Coldar grinning sympathetically from whatever project he was handling, but we didn't talk much since Uncle Sarditt kept me busy, and because Coldar mostly worked alone, just checking with Uncle Sarditt time to time. After a while, Uncle Sarditt even nodded once or twice when reviewing my cards, but the frowns and questions were always more frequent, and as soon as I thought I understood something well enough to avoid his questions, he would ask me something even more obscure, discipline of woodworking. If it weren't the trees, it was their bark. If it weren't their bark, it was the recommended cutting times and sawmill techniques. If it weren't one type of wood, it was what types you could match in inlays, what differences in grain widths meant. Some of it made sense, but a lot seemed to design woodworking as complicated as possible. Complicated? Of course it's complicated. Perfection is always complicated. Do you want your work to last, or do you want it to fall apart at the first touch of chaos? But we don't even have any white magicians in Recluce. We don't? Are you sure about that? There wasn't much I could say to that. Practicing magicians, at least the white ones who use chaos, were strongly discouraged by the masters. And what the masters discouraged generally stayed discouraged, although there seemed to be only few masters for all the towns in Recluce. I guess my old teacher, Magister Kerwin, he was a master. Although we didn't usually think of magisters as masters, they were both part of the same order. Magisters were those who actually taught. So, I kept studying woods, trees, and tools, and after nearly a year, began to make a few simple items. Someone has to make them, and they should be made right. You can do it well enough to keep chaos at bay, and you can select from any of my designs or try one of your own. If you do your own, let's go over it together before you begin cutting. I did one of my own. Simple, but with an octagonal shape. Simple but nice, Laris. You might actually have a future as a woodcrafter. From bedboards, I went on to other simple items. Outdoor benches for a cafe, a set of plain bookcases for the school, nothing with carving, although I had begun to do carving for my own furniture, and Uncle Sardit had even admitted that the wooden armchair I had built for my quarters was not out of place in most homes. Not quite clean enough, a few rough spots with spoke joining angles, but on the whole, a credible effort. That was the most I had ever gotten praise from Uncle Sardit, but I was still bored, even as I continued to learn. Please subscribe, like, and comment for more videos like this. Thanks. See you all in the next one. Goodbye.